we could. Some of the questions I think may take a little bit more time, but I think majority of them we were able to answer. Would you agree, Janice?
I think so, absolutely.
Okay, that's good. So what I want to do tonight is just say what we're going to do is going to go through the questions. When we answer it, you will have an opportunity to comment on that question. If you don't have anything to comment on it, that's fine. But I just want to give everybody an opportunity to speak their piece. Once we finish, if there's anyone who had comments that they did not bring up, you will have that opportunity to do so then. As I said last week, I was very happy that everyone sort of stayed on point with questions only. And so tonight, like I said, is your chance to present your comments. Mr. Plasek, do you want to sit in the back or you want to come up? Okay, all right. So you will have to come up at some point. So and these are, I think, we wrote them down as best we could in the order in which the questions were asked. So I'm going to start with the first one. You know what? I need my glasses. There they are. Yes, sign. It's a sign. So welcome everybody. This is a second conversation on the Lackawanna Plaza development. A development I think we all know has been a long time coming, that we all want to see it through its fruition. But I think it's important that the community, particularly those who live in the area, get an opportunity to voice their concerns, their support, but actually get an understanding. And one of the things that is important, as much as these are helpful in the design, I think the next step is to really see the size and scope, which I think will occur before anything gets finalized. So I'm going to start with question number one. Will there be a local preference for affordable housing units? Whether there are income requirements for affordable housing units? So before I answer that, what I'm going to say is all of these FAQs will be up online, so you can also see them online and not just tonight on this piece of paper that I'm reading off of. So the answer, and unfortunately I have to be very specific to the answers here. So Montclair Township's affordable housing regulations already include a local preference for all households that live in Montclair or include full-time employees of either Montclair Township or the Montclair Township Board of Education. That's Township Code 659C. However, this is a good suggestion, and we recommend that language in the redevelopment plan be clarified to indicate that the local preference is applicable. To be eligible, total household incomes are based on household size. So to give you an answer, so a household size of 1, the maximum income to qualify on a low income is $40,317. Maximum income for moderate, $64,507. Household size of 6, I don't want to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Household size of 6, maximum income low, $66,811. Maximum income for moderate, $106,898. Now, is that understandable? Do you want me to break it down a little bit more? Because I can give you, so for a household size of 2, it goes from 40,000 roughly to 46,000. So the increments go up around 5,000 based on the number of size. So that's something for the maximum income of low income. Moderate income, the increase is roughly around $9,000 each. So it goes from 64,000 for 1 to 106,000 for 6, 73,000 for 2, 82,000 for 3, 92,000 for 4, and 99,000 for 5. So I think it's upon us to make sure that anyone who's Montclair local, that there is a preference for them. I think that's what the basic answer was. Janice, do you have anything to add?
No,
Okay.
just that I will post these frequently asked questions on the same web page that the plan is. It's the redevelopment web page under the planning department website.
So here's a good one. And this is one I think is going to get a lot of conversation about. What are short-term rental units, and what will happen if these units are vacant? Short-term rental units are defined in the redevelopment plan as dwelling units with at least leases of at least 3 days and less than 90 days. Vacant short-term rental units are not addressed in the redevelopment plan. They will be included in calculating the affordable and workforce housing requirement for the project. There's nothing in the plan precluding these units from being converted to regular rental units. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
15%. 15% is the maximum.
And I want to preface that by also saying that anything that we talk about right now is somewhat negotiable sometimes. So it might be 15% now, it may go lower. You know, it depends on as we get into what it terms. All right. How will the workforce housing work? You okay? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'll jump in. Thank you. How will workforce housing work? Workforce housing is defined as households earning between 80% and 120% of area median income as approved annually by the Affordable Housing Professionals of New Jersey. It is recommended that redevelopment plans be amended to state that the marketing and administration of these units shall be as otherwise required by the township's affordable housing regulations. So what is AMI for Montclair? I think that's really, because when I tell you area median income, who knows what that is? That's what I thought. I didn't know either, but I had to ask the question. So AMI, this is what the bottom sheet is, correct?
That's it, yes.
Yeah. So AMI on a medium household income for one person, one size, $80,634. Medium household income, 80% AMI, $64,507. Maximum household income, 120% AMI, $96,671. Janice, can you just explain that? And like I'm a sixth grader?
That's
Actually, third grader.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
For a one-person household, a household, basically that person would have to make between $64,500 and $96,000 to qualify for essentially what we're calling workforce housing, to make sure that the rents would be affordable, no more than 30% of your monthly fees. So that's how this will be calculated. And it goes up for a two-family household, it's between $73,000 and $110,000. For a three-person household, it's between $82,000 and $124,000, and on up to what we showed here was six families households between $106,000 and $160,000.
That's six person, not six
Yeah.
families. And so
Sorry. Yeah.
at this particular time, I think this is a very important process so that the workforce housing for our employees who work for the township or the Board of Education. So I think it's a good opportunity. One of the questions I have is how much has it been used up until now? And how can we write language in the redevelopment plan and make sure it gets taken advantage of? So that's something that I'm committed to. Number 4, will an updated traffic study be provided? What will be the traffic impact to surrounding streets? Will the traffic study include additional approved and future development? Will it be independent and not authored by the developer or the county? So the redevelopment plan requires that a traffic impact study be provided as part of the site plan review. A traffic study was developed by the developer that included traffic counts in March 2022. The study concluded that intersections in the immediate vicinity of the project will operate at an overall level of service, LOSD, or better, with all individual movements operating at a LOSE or better during the weekday morning, weekday evening, Saturday midday peak hours. It is unclear from the information provided if any other developments which have been approved but not constructed, occupied, were included in this analysis. So that sounds like a lot of different language that, what does LOS equate to? Is there a number we can contribute? All of those things will be done as we get further along the project. But I want to say it is recommended that the redevelopment plan be amended to clearly state that a new traffic study be prepared upon submission of a site plan with new traffic counts, as recent improvements to Bluefield Avenue by Essex County were not complete as of March 2022. The updated traffic study should include all planned approved development projects in the area, as these projects may impact the conclusion of the traffic study. The redevelopment plan should clearly state that mitigation is required by the applicant for any movements that are anticipated to operate at poor LOSE or failing LOC levels of service. A queuing analysis for movements at key intersections such as Bloomfield Avenue and Grove Street should also be required, as it is unclear from the information provided if adequate storage is available for turning vehicles upon full build out of the project. Two questions is that. LOSC, D, and E. Can you explain that?
Yes, those are common terms used by traffic engineers when they prepare traffic studies. I actually brought a definition because I don't know it off the top of my head. Different roadways and different intersections are evaluated by how well traffic flows through those intersections and how long the wait times are. So, for instance, the traffic study that was submitted said that the intersections surrounding the Lackawanna site currently operate at an overall level of service D, which is defined as high density flow in which speed and freedom to maneuver are severely restricted and comfort and convenience have declined even though flow remains stable. That's term of the art for traffic engineers. And this is probably better actually addressed by a traffic engineer than myself because I'm just reading what was sent over to me. And a level of service E, because the traffic study that they submitted does state that during peak hours, those intersections operate at level of service E currently, which is unstable flow at or near capacity levels with poor levels of comfort and convenience. We all know you have to wait during peak hours already at this those intersections. So what the proposal is if there's any decrease in that level of service, then the developer would be required to provide mitigation. I think that's essentially what the plan is. The proposal is to put that requirement in the redevelopment plan.
Okay. Oh, hands up everywhere. Okay. So, hold on. There's a question right here. There's a question. Right here.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were pointing at me.
Is there a level below E?
Yes,
Okay,
there's level of service F.
gotcha. So E is not failing, it's just very slow.
Right.
Gotcha, thank you.
What was the question that was forgotten?
Will the town do an independent traffic study was one of the questions, and that wasn't answered.
Yes, so Janice, you want to handle this first?
I
and
can
then I'll
answer
follow
that.
up? Okay.
The redevelopment plan requires that a traffic study be prepared. Typically, the traffic study is prepared by a traffic engineer hired by the developer, the township, the planning board, because this is addressed during site plan review. The planning board has its own traffic engineer, and our traffic engineer reviews the numbers, the traffic counts, and does their own independent analysis and comes up with their comments and conclusions and suggestions. They evaluate mitigation levels. So we have our own traffic expert who works for the town, who serves our interests in evaluating these applications.
Hold on one second. You got to speak into the mic.
There's already been a traffic study done. Is that on the redevelopment website?
No, that it was a traffic study that was prepared by the developer when they submitted the concept plan for our internal review. It's not on our website,
So
no.
we don't have access to that traffic study.
No, you don't.
But,
Why?
so, hold on. Let me just be very clear here. This is going to be a very respectful and meaningful conversation. So I think the question that you're asking next is on the council and people like myself to make sure that that is something that is done. Because I think it's very important that the independent study is there so people that know that, okay, we didn't just follow whatever developer came up with. I think that's what your main final point is, that you want to make sure that there's an independent traffic studies done that is up on the website for you to see.
But it's not independent because the developer hires.
No, okay, so I'm going to respond again. So, as Ms. Talley said, the current one was developed by the developer. Now, the planning board, the township, has its own independent firm that will be doing its own analysis. But I believe that because of the interest in this and the impact, that the township does need to provide an independent independent study of traffic for the area. And that is something for the council to push through, not the planning board.
My last question, will the public have access to those traffic?
Oh, without a doubt. It has to, everything that we do, there's a reason we're here tonight. And that's so that you all are able to ask these questions and make sure that we give you answers. And as I said before, when this was first brought up to the council, it was to be done without public comment. And that was the thing I fought for, that before we approved anything, that we need to bring this to the public. And that's why we're here, to hear your concerns, such as the one you brought up. But I'll close out by saying, I am committed to pushing to the council to ask for an independent traffic study that, yes, will be up for the public to review on the website, as well as another community meeting so that you can really see it and what the impact is. Were there any questions? I don't know if I asked questions about the AIM and the housing, affordable housing. Everybody's good with that? You have a question regarding that? Let me bring it.
First of all, thank you for having this meeting. It's very, very helpful and informative. I have a question about the short-term housing, and just wondering what the notion is behind that. Is it the developer's suggestion? Is it something that the town thought would be helpful in attracting a developer? And what does it actually mean? I just read in the development plan what it says, but what does it actually mean? Who or what will be in that housing?
David, did you want to tackle that at all? Or you want us to?
Well, David, I know you want, it's something that you want to integrate into your project. It was not something that we put into this project. So, David, why don't you let him talk about it?
Yeah, you can come up. And again, this is why we're doing this, so that we are able to answer the questions that you all have. And I think this is an important one. But I think to answer your question, which is, no, the town, well, this was worked together with EDC and Mr. Plasek. And so, but ultimately, the answer to your question will come right now. It's on.
People have asked for it, is the simple answer. So what is it? It's furnished apartment units. The best way to describe who the typical users are of those units are people who have parents or other relatives that may be staying in town for, 2 weeks to 2 months. Sometimes you have a catastrophic event at your house, a flood, you're renovating, something along those lines, and you need a furnished rental unit. So there are facilities that cater to this. A big company is known as the AVE. There's one in Clifton. There's one in Florham Park. We've heard from a lot of people in Montclair that live in those units on a short-term basis. You may be moving into Montclair, and the date that you can get access to the house you purchased is 30, 60, 90 days away from when you're actually vacating the house you sold. So this is a temporary use that allows you to have a unit within the township that you can occupy on a short-term basis rather than having to sign a typical 9, 12, 15, 18-month lease. Yeah. Yeah.
You can take my spot. I told you to come up there.
I gather it's not a hotel as such.
No, typically you don't know the difference between a unit that's a corporate rental suite and a regular unit or an affordable unit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
it's just,
it's not a separate building, a separate section. It's just
No,
in
it's
amongst
just-
the others. Okay.
yeah, and as Janice mentioned, I think the redevelopment plan allows for up to 15% of these units, but you can, moderate how many you have at any given time. If you have more demand for, regular units, and not high demand for these units, you swap them in and out.
Mr. Cotter.
Thanks, Dave. I have a quick process question for you, because I think you've answered all my questions as it pertains to what Bill's queries were in regards to traffic studies. You could hear how anxious Bill is about pedestrian safety and about traffic flow. It's one of the main concerns of those of us who are going to live in the shadow of this development, Clover Hill Place, Grove Terrace. So, Dave, can we get a sense of like when the council might vote on something like an independent traffic study? And could we have some assurance that that would happen well before this train leaves the station? I think it is one of the most crucial aspects to quality of life and the lived experience of those who are going to live in the shadow of this. So I just want to make sure that we're not going to get that traffic study well after this process is over.
Yeah, I think that to answer your question, that is my hope. I'm on a council with 6 other individuals, and sometimes we're in agreement, sometimes we're not. But I think if people have been paying attention to the questions that have been asked, that they should know that I think this is something that we need to do. But again, I'm sure we will have this discussion as our council meeting on the 14th, on Monday, because for me, this is project number 1. So all things about this, I'm going to be bringing up, public, so that you'll know where everyone stands and kind of have a good idea. And I want to also acknowledge that Robin Schlager, who's on the planning board, council representative, is here and taking questions and also relaying what she's hearing as well. So I think that's the whole thing, is to make sure that everyone is aware of what are the concerns. So now I'm going to ask you, James, since, we were buddies once, that
Always, DC, always.
I'm going to ask you to take the mic to everyone who has questions for us. So you shouldn't have volunteered. And I want to make sure that we are, right now, the questions are about what I just talked about, because we had another 18 to go. Yes, ma'am.
Quick question, just want to make sure my understanding is correct. The affordable housing is going to be 20%, but now the short-term rentals can go up to 15% and count towards the affordable housing?
No.
Okay.
No, affordable housing is 20%. Mr. Plasek is committed to 10% of workforce housing. So 30% right there, that's 20% affordable, 10% workforce, and then the short terms are 15%.
Okay. And
So I
do not
think
go
the
towards
numbers, if it was built at what it is right now, which is I think is about 370 units, you do 15% of that. I'm not a mathematician, but that's about 50 units. And I think if you looked at affordable at 20%, that's around 70 units. And then the 10% workforce, about 37 units. See, Montclair High School, Montclair school system can, learn something there. This lady had a question here. And I appreciate this, James.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to get clarity on the timeline if the council votes on an independent survey. Last Thursday, you said that you were discussing it at this one and looking to approve it in January, so it can go to the planning board. Does the traffic impact study impact the township's approval in January, or will you still look at approving it in January and then the planning board takes on the review of the traffic impact studies?
So the goal is to actually do that first part December 6th, and then that's when the 45-day review for the planning board kicks off, correct?
That's correct.
If it's passed on December 6th, if we adopt
Sure.
to move forward on
Introduce,
December 6th, or
yeah.
introduce, yes, I'm sorry. And so that would then, but I think we've had enough or at least I've had enough conversation to bring to my council mates and others, say, hey, one of the things that people are asking for is an independent traffic study. So that's a question that you can get an answer to on Monday when we're all here in our council meeting, and I bring that to my other council members.
I still don't feel like I've got an answer. Does it
Well,
impact?
because I can't say, I can tell you what I want, but I can't tell you what the 7 of us want.
Right.
So in my opinion, based on the meetings that I've had, the 2 meetings, this one tonight, and constant conversation I've had, an independent traffic study is something that the community wants.
For sure.
Right.
I'm asking, do you need to have that before you approve it as a council to
Oh,
go
I'm
to
sorry.
the planning board, or can you approve it to go to the planning board while the traffic impact study
Well, we can
is
request
occurring?
it at any time.
Okay.
So we don't need to move anything. We could do that tomorrow if we had a meeting.
But it doesn't impact your ability to approve it at a town council
No,
meeting? Okay,
no.
thank
I
you.
mean, because I think there's separate things that we have to do.
I probably missed it since we're talking about affordable housing. At the last meeting, I remember Rhea had asked what was the income requirement to be eligible for
Yeah,
affordable
you did
housing.
miss it.
She said I didn't. No, I'm just
But it will be up. So it
So what
will
is
be up. But to essentially, I can run it by you real quick again. So affordable housing, maximum income low is 40,307 for a household size of one. Maximum income low for a family of six is 66,811. Now, maximum income for moderate housing, for a size of one is 64,507. Maximum income for a family of six is 106,000. And based on the calculations, and this will all be on the website, it's probably for the maximum income, low income, it goes up by around 6,000 per family member. Maximum income moderate goes up around 9,000 per family member. But again, all this will be up on the website and you'll be able to see it. All right, anything else on traffic? Good. This is like, all right, we're rolling. Next question. Tell me, I may have said this already, I don't even know. How will traffic during construction be handled? So the redevelopment plan requires that the applicant submit a construction staging plan that addresses impact on existing public parking spaces during the construction phase as part of the site plan review. Can we add any more detail to that?
Absolutely,
Okay.
whatever you want.
Add it.
I will.
Okay. So essentially, I think the question is basically that the developer does have to provide a construction plan that we have to see how this thing will be built in stages and how it will not impact. So it's not like all of a sudden, I'm glad my man Jason is here, Grove Street's going to be shut down and you not know about it. We'll make sure that if there are any traffic impediments or stop or anything to stop that, you will have notice ahead of time. Similar to like when we do curbing streets, you get a curbing notice, but in this case, I think it'll be a little bit more, let's say, stringent in terms of making sure, because that is a very big corridor for Montclair. We good? All right. Wait for the, yeah.
I'm old enough to remember when the Pathmark was being built and Clover Hill Place was used for dump trucks, cement trucks, bulldozers. One of my neighbors, who has since moved to Florida, you might be glad to know this, laid down in the middle of the street to stop those construction vehicles. So I'm going to be very curious to hear this construction plan.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Again, these are the comments that we need to hear about, because I don't know how many council members know about your friend who laid down in the middle of the street, or that all the dump trucks are coming up and down Clover Hill. So this is a good thing, as well as for the developer to know as well. So that's a good thing that Mr. Plasik's here. So Dave, I think you understand where traffic. Yeah. So that's where James, you've committed to. So Mr. Cotter, you've committed to basically your backyard being the staging place. Notice Mr. Cotter's wife is not here tonight. So, number 6, will the plan include a local transportation system, i.e. shuttle? I don't think I don't want to just say no, because it's like, but it is no. However, I think things like this, if there's, there's always unintended consequences. And so like trying to figure out if something like that was possible, like that's what I think is important. It's not, just don't say no without saying, hey, is something possible? But as of right now, no, that's not part of it. That's a roundabout way to say that. Will development pursuant to the plan cause overcrowding in the schools? I'm giving you an answer that was given to me. The development will not cause overcrowding in schools, as 375 dwelling units permitted in the redevelopment plan are projected to generate only 23 public school children. This is based on a planning department analysis of public school children in multifamily housing in 2019 that determined that multifamily buildings containing 10 or more units generate, is that 0.13 school children per unit?
0.13.
0.13 school children per unit, with 6+ story multifamily buildings generating only 0.06 public school children per unit. So my note to this is, as I said to Janet, are we confident here, and find out how many 2 and 3 bedroom units are in this development? The number seems kind of low to me. I know it is a significant part, and so I think that is one of the things where just we need to do more research. So I'm committed to answering that way right now, just because that is what the research shows based on what we've done. But it is a question I think we need a little more research on. James, question?
Thanks. I had initially asked that question, and so my follow-up to that is, can you tell us, and maybe not off the cuff, how many apartments there are at the Sienna and how many children that's brought in, and the same with one near the Police Valley and Bloom?
That was included in the study. I don't have it with me tonight, but I can certainly go through all my notes, because we worked with the Board of Education to identify exactly how many school children were in our public schools from all those projects.
Okay, because the 23, I think that you had mentioned, I mean, just seems incredibly low. For
I'll be honest with you, newer projects have fewer than older buildings. So I will, this is comprehensive. This analysis includes the older buildings in the towns, in the township, and the new buildings. The new buildings had far fewer school children than the older buildings. So it's a combination of those numbers. If I go just to the Sienna or just the Valley and Bloom, I'm pretty sure that they'll be even lower than what's here.
Hold on one second. So what I want to say, what's your name? I'm sorry, Lana. What I want to say is that I think one of the keys is finding out how many 2 and 3 and 4 bedroom units are being built, if any 4 bedroom units. I think that'll give us a little bit better indication.
I think I have the data.
Okay.
Yeah, the concept plan included 36 studios, apartments, 151 one-bedroom, 144 two-bedroom, and 39 three-bedroom. So they're fairly typical range.
Ratio, yeah.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
I was just going to say that the data that I cited was from the same study, and it did include Valley and Bloom and the Sienna.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So there are further discussions to be. I think some of these questions can go deeper. David, you have something to say? Yeah. You all right?
I'm curious what the peak enrollment was in the Montclair Public School System, how many kids that included, and where we sit in the 2022-2023 school year.
So that sounds like one of those questions where you know the answer already, but that is something we'll have to look into.
I don't know the answer, but
All right.
I have a guess.
So we'll find peak enrollment and
Where we are in this year,
yeah.
2022.
So I want to make sure that peak enrollment, how far back? Okay. All right. Oh yeah, but we want to see going back and how things like. And I think we also have to take into consideration a lot of students left in COVID, so we got to get numbers going back some years to get that terms. Yes.
So this Lackawanna Plaza thing was this Lackawanna Plaza Old Pathmark shut down 7 years ago in 2015, even way before the COVID pandemic existed. So what I wanted to know is, how long is it going to take to figure out the whole Lackawanna Plaza situation, and how is it the new Lackawanna, and how long will it take for the new Lackawanna Plaza to be developed? And two, a comment, an answer. We were able to pass the bond referendum. I'm sure we're able to pass this. Thank you.
Okay. So I believe Mr. Plasek said last week, once everything is open and goes in the ground, about 2 years to complete. So 2 years is the number. The second question of like what it'll actually look like, I think that's what we're negotiating right now, or we're beginning to start that process. So I can't tell you that it will be done and approved in January, February. I could just say that we're in the process of figuring out how to move forward on that. Okay, number 8. Why was an environmental impact study not provided as part of the redevelopment plan? The redevelopment plan requires that information pertaining to environmental impact must be submitted as part of the site plan review, including the following items: LEED certification analysis, fiscal impact analysis, utility impact analysis, and stormwater management plan. Janice, one of the things I think that'll be very helpful if we can basically identify site plan review and when that'll happen. And so that, you know, because there's stages to this in which some questions can be answered at different stages. And what I don't want to do is give you poor information. So can you just...
Right, the project details are not submitted to the township, or not provided until a site plan is submitted to the township, to the planning board. The document that the council is considering to introduce is really the master plan. It's the policy document. It's what are we trying to achieve. And it's also a regulatory document. It basically regulates what can be built there in terms of the size of the buildings, the number of dwelling units, and other items. But a lot of the questions that come up are not addressed at the redevelopment plan level, because we don't have a plan. We don't have a site plan. We don't have all of those details. It's really the approach and the regulations. So a lot of these questions like environmental impact, well, we need the details to determine what will be the impact. And so that analysis will be done upon submission of a site plan, so that at that point the board and all of our experts can delve into it and determine what the impacts would be and what appropriate measures should be taken.
Thank you, Janice.
Dave, we have a question in the back.
Hi, so this question ties in a few of the elements that are being discussed today. Traffic, environmental impact, and the role of the town on behalf of its inhabitants. So I see you, Janice Talley, and you as the board members, as our gatekeepers and representing our interests. And what I want to make sure is that you do that in such a way where perhaps you do step up and look at initiating things which will help us moving forward. So, for example, when I asked the question which turned into the question about a shuttle, the answer I was given was, well, there are 3 train stations in town. It's true there are 3 train stations in town. It's also true 4, 5, you said 3 on the day, I know there's more.
There's 6.
But they don't operate on a Saturday or a Sunday, so it's completely irrelevant. It's irrelevant to the farmers market that there's a train station there as well, and yet it's cited as a reason for the market being there, or has been historically. So I'm just asking you to own the responsibility of making our town function well, and look at environmental and traffic impacts as a quality of life question, and how the town can take responsibility for things like transportation, because the developer doesn't have to, but I think the town does.
So I want to. So, are you asking for the township to provide some type of shuttle service to and from different locations while this is being developed?
That's been a question that's been a long time coming, not just for this, but I see this as an opportunity to turn it from a question into a fact. So why not?
Well, I know we do provide. And correct me if I'm wrong, interim manager, we do provide service to grocery stores and things like that with like Lyft. I mean, like Lyft and Uber right now, correct? But those are for like seniors and individuals who need that type of support. Well, you need to speak into that so people can hear you.
We have Ride for Life for seniors, and the circumference of the trips are up to 10 miles outside of Montclair. Right now, it's for anything. It's for doctors. It could be for the grocery store. But we just signed an agreement with the county last week, and Michael Vieira at the County of Essex is even thinking about specifically starting a route for grocery stores.
Okay. Yeah, but I think the harder question, I just want to make sure that is, and this, you don't have to answer it. I'm just saying, I'm talking now. Is that I don't see the township, that would be something to be brought to the council, is of creating like a, other than our train service and our bus services that are available right now, I don't see us like creating like a jitney that can take people to and from different areas throughout the township. I just want to be very upfront with you. That's all. Well, I think I'm speaking for myself, and that I think that would be a change that the council would have to take in effect. And then you're talking about purchasing vehicles, you're talking about increasing manpower. There's a lot to it more than just, okay, provide this service. And I think before you even started going down the road, you would have to need a study of how many people actually need that. I mean, we are a suburban township, and we're somewhat of a wealthy township. We do have individuals who are low income, but I think before you can even go down that road, there would have to be a study done to see if there is a need for such service at the level that we'd have to start requiring that. You counsel for everything, yes. And then we're going to pass it on to somebody else to do the work.
So if I can just respond, and I'll be brief. This town prides itself on being first at this and first at that, and we've just hired a new environmental officer. And this speaks to that. It's not just about who doesn't have a car. The objective partly would be so people don't have to get into their cars. And this would impact all these traffic studies that everyone is concerned about and impact parking. So it's bigger and broader. And so I'm encouraging and asking the council to have a bigger, bolder vision.
Right. And I'm going to move on, but I'm going to go back and say, I believe in giving you what you need as opposed to what you want. And if there's a proof that that is a need, then that's something that we would have to take into consideration. And in order to find out if it's a need, we would have to do a study of residents to see how many residents need that type of service. We just can't, I mean, but the point that you've brought it up puts it on the radar to discuss it. But that's the key, is whether or not it is something that is needed. So that's what. Any other questions regarding the, well, we did the impact study stuff. The next question I think is very easy to answer. Will the music and special events at Lackawanna Plaza continue? And if so, how will it be managed? I think Mr. Plasek has committed to having open space there for music events. I want to make sure that people know that the Jazz Festival, there's no making it smaller. Is that correct, David? Oh, you don't know? Okay. All right, so we're not going to shut down Bloomfield Avenue. Jazz Festival is going to be smaller. No, I'm only kidding. Right. No, but the plan is that the space right now will not be what it looks like right now. But Mr. Plasek has committed to having open space around there to where you can do events like that. So last Sunday, we had a Get Out to Vote event at Lackawanna Plaza. There will be nothing to prohibit that from being able to happen. Now, can we have big, car shows like we had over the summer where they had big cars? I don't think that would be possible because that lot is going to be a building. So there will not be, I think there'll be enough for the arts programs that will be held there to continue. If not, then David, we're going to have to talk about it. But I think he's committed to the arts. Will the supermarket have free parking? This is a good question. That is not addressed in the redevelopment plan. That's the answer. And so you have a question, Dr. Basco? Oh, okay.
I have a question on the other plan. When I looked at the proposal, Is there a circular driveway that goes through the open space, or that's separate? Because when I looked at it, it looks like there's a circular driveway that's going through the area that's identified as open space.
Yes, the concept plan for, what is that? I don't know the name of that first open space area. It's got a name.
Main Plaza.
Main Plaza. The concept for the main plaza is it will have I guess you could call it a driveway integrated into it to provide access for special events, to provide access for drop-off for the grocery store and some of the other retail stores there. So it'll be designed, the intent is to have it designed as part of the plaza, but it can be used for circulation as well.
The only reason I ask is because I think that's very important for us to understand as we, try to visualize children running around there or whatever, even adults. And then this circular driveway that is taking up, to me, it looked like quite a bit of this open space. So we just need to be mindful.
Right.
And I think the open space is something that I'm very passionate about, and I believe there's some others in the room that also were interested in that.
So, David, I think you have two other locations that'll be supposed to be like open space. Is that Station Plaza and then the Linear Arts Plaza?
The township's plan in front of you. That's right.
So I guess what I'm saying is this isn't the only space that will be open for events and things like that, correct? So you've got two other locations that will also serve for events. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I believe you're correct. I think also the plan includes in the design guidelines, if I recall, and Janice, correct me if I'm wrong here, that main plaza drive aisle, will be designed or should be designed like a piazza, and there's the potential to, close it down to vehicular traffic if need be. Is that something that's in there?
Yeah, I can tell you exactly what the plan says. The plaza shall include a one-way vehicular loop from Bloomfield Avenue with short-term parking spaces and pickup drop-off along one side. This plaza should be designed as a shared space or piazza-style space that prioritizes pedestrians while also accommodating cars and other vehicles as needed. I think the concept is it'll be integrated into the design of the open space. It'll be used for access when there's not public events, but if we have public events, then the driveway aisle, that loop, can be closed so that it's the full size of that area is a plaza. So it's flexible.
Great question, because the liability of, as you say, having people there in cars, so thank you, Dr. Baxter. Appreciate that. But the question was originally, will it have free parking? Mr. Placer, can you respond to that right now? Okay. No, as in you can't respond to it right now. Okay. Will any federal funds be used to build this project? This is not addressed in the redevelopment plan, but I believe, Mr. Plasick, the answer is no. Right. What will be the net tax revenue from the project? So that will be addressed when the fiscal impact analysis, which is required as the site plan submission item, is in the redevelopment plan. So basically, that has not been determined right now. That will be determined down the road when the site plan analysis is done.
Just for clarity, the free parking question we're discussing is to go to the grocery store or go to all the shops that are available. And right now, there's no answer as to if we'll be able to go to the grocery store without paying for parking.
Right. And I think that becomes a part of, like I said, this is a negotiation. And so it's clear, at least as far as I'm concerned, that free parking, particularly to the grocery store, retail shops, are things that the community may want. And the only way we know that is the community tells us that. But so that is being heard. And that's, again, I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, but that is the purpose of being here, so that everyone here can bring up their concerns and what they feel is what the community wants. So I think people know what the community wants when it comes to parking. And again, goes up on the council as we move forward to this plan. There are certain demands that we get to make, and it goes back and forth. All right.
Am I beating a dead horse if I say, well, you don't pay for parking to go to ShopRite or Walmart or Target?
I think you would. I think
Am I
you could
being a dead
say.
horse? Am I being a dead
I think you could say that there are a lot of places that you go. There's no parking that are not malls. So again, that's where we get held accountable, right? We have to deliver. Well, in Montclair, anywhere. That's why I said that are not. That's why I said that are not malls. Because if you go to American Dream, you're paying for parking. But here, in malls around here, you're not. Robin, I know you have something to say, not a question.
Well, I just have a logistics question about shopping at the grocery store. Or is that coming up? Or would this
No,
be-
not yet.
Okay. So very simply, if you're going on a typical Saturday to do your grocery shopping, you go into the parking deck and behind the grocery store, which is how I read it. What level do you park at? What would be the parking levels for the grocery store shoppers? How do you logistically take a shopping cart? Is there an elevator? Are there escalators? And then how do you get back to your car? And
Now,
what-
you know I don't know those answers, right?
Right.
Mr. Plasek, do you have any answers to that without site plan and things being done already?
I'll steal your thunder, Janice. That would be included in a site plan application.
So, again, just being upfront with everybody, it's clear once we get this through this process that we need the same passion for when we get to site plan, because that's when you really get to the nitty gritty. Money, what's going to be done, what's going to look like. So, stay engaged. That's all I'm asking. We all stay engaged. Yes.
I just wanted to follow up on the open space, okay? So, so we have the main plaza with the loop of the parking and the driveway that goes through it. Then we have that second, above that, I can't see what it's called.
Station
Right.
Plaza.
Oh,
to the
Station
top,
Plaza,
and then
okay.
other side, the
And then there's the linear park.
Arts Plaza.
Yeah, the Station Plaza, it strikes me that that's going to be surrounded by 1, 2, 3 tall buildings, right? So, and I understand the back side, the left side of it will be just one continuing wall. I don't know, maybe you'll turn it into a green wall or something. And the other side, the downside, is maybe a cafe or something like that. But basically, it's not going to be a sunny green space if there gets no light much. I guess it's kind of a question or it's a comment. And the other side, I'd like to know that linear park, right now, that is a grassy space, and it's on a slope, a pretty deep slope. Will that be leveled out, and or will it still be on a slope? Because a little hard to use it on a slope.
Right.
Anyway, and the size of it on the plan compared to what's there now, I'm kind of curious about that as well.
So David, can you answer any of those questions? I think regards to. So I think the answer is that when we get to, we're not going to go back and forth with, what I think the answer is, when we get to site plan review, we'll have a better understanding of what the, if there's going to be enough light there, what the walling will look like. So that I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just, to be perfectly honest, we're all deferring to site plan review, but basically it's Mr. Plasek's plan that is described here.
Right.
So the actual details will come out, more details will come out in site plan review, but this is what's going to be built, as I understand it.
Let's play ping pong.
No, I can't help but clarify. If this were my plan, we would probably be intending to build more than we are right now, or more that's being proposed right now. Just for clarification, and maybe this is a question, Janice, that we can provide an answer to, but My understanding is this plan on a apartment per unit density is the least dense project that's been done in the downtown area of Montclair in a long time.
Is it going out?
It is. Most apartment projects that downtown are anywhere from 80 to 100 units per acre. Substantially less than that. I would love to have 80 to 100 units. I can go in another time as to why that's beneficial, but you know, this most certainly is not the dream.
But I think to Ms. Loughlin's question is that, and to everyone, is that, you know, there is a minimum and maximum number per acre. That number's there. Current number is below what the maximum number is. But I think more or less your questions are like, okay, if we're in this wonderful Station Plaza, as I'm looking at a big wall next to me. And so that's essentially what you're saying. And I think as we get through it, and one of the hopes is that we can get a 3D scale model that folks can see. I mean, that's one of the things there was a model that was reviewed. Unfortunately, it's not available, but I think that having that model is very important so you can actually see the size and scope. What do you need?
I'm going to just talk really loud.
Well, he can't hear you. Go ahead.
All I want to do is point out what you miss looking at these plans is that these parks are all connected. That's an element. Because you have the linear park, which connects from Glenbridge Avenue, and we're putting the bike lanes part of this project. Linear Arts Plaza, and then you have the connection of curving the underground tunnel and integrating that part of the park. Get east from Glenbridge Avenue through the park, through the that tunnel will basically provide a park is by building size, but it does provide a pedestrian the main plaza. So it's not big wide open space, they're all connected, and that's part of the pedestrian mobility that was part of the original plan. We've been talking about it from day one, to make it easy to walk to and through this. These parks are where they're located.
So it's one thing. Ooh. Why is that? Is that okay?
It looks to me as if that brown with the triangles on it, that's open space.
Yeah, but
Am I right in thinking that it looks like there's just as much open space? It's private open space as there is public open space, so there's a lot of open space in this plan?
Well, the private open space, a lot of those open space areas are on top of rooftops because these are not straight up buildings. The buildings are cut away and you create private terraces and private open spaces here. This terrace separates building D and E, so that's basically a private open space here. This area here by building E is again a private open space terrace, and the same thing with B. That's why it's still open space, but they're not necessarily at the top of the building. They're like on the second level. Terraces for the residents and occupants of those buildings.
But I think in order to really get an understanding of this, we need to get a 3D model because that will give you a really good, because this is great if you've seen that and you kind of understand it, but until you see that, you really can't get an appreciation or a whoa unless you see that. All right. Rubina, did you have a question? I saw your hand. The mic. James, get on your job. You got Janice double duty, man.
I just wanted to I'm going back a little bit, but about the parking situation for any shopping for the shopping center. Has anybody been to Bloomfield, Food Town? I'm not sure, but I went there once and when they first built it,
Damn.
to go into the garage, and I've been back to Food Town, but I haven't been in their garage because it's very, very, it's a turnoff. To go there, then they tell you have to have, I think it's, you have to have the receipt, and then you have to go through a whole process. And I think to myself, oh no, I'm not doing that. I'm going to park on the street. So I'd rather park and try to find parking, or I just won't go. And as far as getting a cart, it's like a nightmare to go shopping. So going forward, for anybody who hasn't been there, I'm going to go. I'm going to go again. I'm going to go through the process so that I can remember how bad it was. And then, and going forward, to talk about it, to maybe get some resolution or propose something that'll work for people. And that, I don't think Jack's Food Town in Bloomfield is the way.
Okay. So I'm going to reiterate that last week I said just questions, and this week everyone can provide their comments. So when I'm here, I'm not texting anyone. I'm taking down what's being said, as well as Robin. I'll share with you. Yes, in the back.
So I don't know if it has to do with the traffic study or not, but parking, as far as trailer trucks dropping off for the grocery store, where will they be unloading?
So again, I could tell you on here, but if you're off of, David, correct me if I'm wrong, if you're on the back side of Lackawanna, which is so you know where what's the restaurant there? Pineapple Express. So the side there where there's a little that building across from the park where Crane Park is. So that section will be where they will create the parking, the driveway for the trucks to drop off. Is that the correct location? Yeah. Vehicles.
From Glenridge Avenue. There's also access from Lackawanna Plaza, but I think most of the trucks will be coming in from Glenridge Avenue and pulling into a loading area right here. So it's definitely wider than it is right now because the building's going to be pushed back farther. But essentially that's where the loading will be.
Yeah, and I think to your question, again, it goes back to you really get, the model is important.
And honestly, loading details are done at site plan, not at this level.
Okay.
We're not going to say site plan anymore tonight.
Yes,
all right. If I just say later, that means site plan. You got another question?
Yes, just to add on to that, because I know that there is existing parking for the adjacent building on the corner of Greenwood and Lackawanna as well. So if the trailer trucks coming in, that may affect. Are we considering how it's going to affect the parking?
That's where they came in for Pathmark.
You're talking about the back lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's again, I think.
But the loading dock was pushed significantly further back.
And it still will be. It'll be it's underneath the parking deck. And again, we don't have the details, but because we're designing this from the ground up, when they come in for site plan, we can make sure that there's enough turning radius so that there'll be no impact to the adjacent property owner.
Okay. Sorry, one more thing about I know the new bike path will be put in, and are we concerned about maybe trailer trucks parking there, time of day of when they'll be delivering?
So I want to go on the record that I think it's important that when we build things, that the residents who live there have a very important say in what the street is like because they live there. And so when we talk about the bike walk path and, the future Essex Hudson Greenway, right now we're going to be increasing the traffic in an area and almost decreasing the size of a street. And by decreasing that size of the street, you're decreasing it not for individuals who live there, but people who want to get there. And so I say that's me personally. I'm concerned about the bike walk path right now because I think we have to make sure that the traffic in that area and all those streets surrounding it are able to move. You talk about, Clover Hill, he's already expressed, we got to worry about Greenwood Avenue, we got to worry about Pine Street and Bay Street. So it's important that what is going in and out of these buildings is able to handle the traffic. So, I think I made my
David, if
point
I could
clear.
just correct those, they're actually going to be widening the cartway on Glenridge Avenue to make it wider to provide for the bike path. So that's just important. It's an important consideration.
Right. And as I said, I'm going to make sure that the residents who live there are okay with that, because they're the ones who'll be most impacted. Yeah.
Rubina's a friend, but I have to disagree. The shopping, the
Parking
garage
at the
at
Food Town
is easy. It's 2 hours. It's free if you spend $20 for grocery shopping. It's I don't know. All covered parking is kind of dismal and does feel like a horror movie, but you get over that pretty quickly, and it's an easy, convenient way to shop. Dovetailing on what Melina said, maybe the developer could work with the potential grocery store, because Food Town used to have a shuttle that they you could get a ride back. So myself, where I live, I walked there for exercise and I got a ride back with my groceries. That kind of shared impact would be a good start to decreasing traffic to that area.
Sure.
Dave, I'm a little bit confused because from what I recall when Janice was speaking last week, in this suburban township, in this downtown area that is surrounded by residential neighborhoods, as I recall, the plan was actually 70 units or thereabout over what the zoning laws require. So I'm confused when it sounded like Mr. Plasek was saying that he could have gotten more or whatever, because that's not what I understood when you explained it, and I thought you did an excellent job, Jan. I appreciate you for being here, but it didn't sound that way to me, so help me to understand how that is the case.
Absolutely. What Mr. Plasek was talking about was pure density. Pure density is calculated strictly as dwelling units per acre. And if you do look at this just at dwelling units per acre, it is smaller than a lot of our other projects. But what's different here is there's a significant amount of commercial and, I guess, office and retail space. That's part of this as well. So when you apply our zoning regulations for the C1 zone, you calculate density after you net out the non-residential space. So when you do that calculation here, yes, you net out the non-residential space. This development comes out to, I think it was 76 more units than they would be otherwise able to build here. That's just based on compared to our existing zoning. He was comparing it to the number of dwelling units per acre to some of our other projects.
So under what conditions would he be able to get more versus to take out that 76 that he's already over?
He would have to reduce the commercial
Residential?
component.
Oh, the commercial.
In order to keep that number of residential units, he'd have to reduce the commercial.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
There's a relationship between
No,
the two.
I get it. Thanks. I'm just trying to figure it out because I remember you said he had, like, I thought it was 70, 76 units over.
Okay, so forgive me because I know you probably said it, but so a site plan is submitted. You said January?
Well, first we have to adopt this.
Well, right, so
And
I guess
then-
what
so
I'm asking
if
is
you're
the
re-
whole time frame. But I know 2 years to build, but what is the time frame for submission and acceptance and all of that stuff?
Right. So I don't want to get ahead of myself. I think the hope is that we get to this around what, if we get this adopted and then we go to planning board review, then in that 45-day period, what happens?
Okay, so best case scenario, this gets introduced December 5th. At 6th at the council meeting. The planning board is already anticipating that it's going to be introduced on the 6th. They've scheduled a discussion, a special meeting actually, to discuss this on December 12th. Because they only have 45 days, which takes us to mid-January. So they're working on evaluating the plan even as we speak. They'll have their report done by their second meeting, which I think is January 9th, at which point they'll deliver it to the council. And I don't know what the council's meeting agenda is for next year, but
We haven't adopted our schedule yet.
they may have to reintroduce the plan, or there may be no changes. So I don't know what that'll be, but I anticipate that the plan will be adopted in the first quarter of 2023.
Right.
And then the applicant will, once we get a plan adopted, then the applicant will submit a site plan, probably in the second quarter of 2023, which means next year, hopefully, if everything goes, if everybody's satisfied with the redevelopment plan and this process gets started, we'll start the public hearings on the site plan sometime next spring.
And then it's 2 years after that to build it, approximately?
Once it gets approved.
Okay.
Once he breaks ground, I mean, we could say 2 years right now, but we have no idea. There could be delays based on anything, but all things considered, that is the timeline that has been given to us.
Okay, thanks. So if people ask us, we'll know what to tell them.
Okay. Can I get to the next question? Okay. Oh, now y'all ready to move on, huh? Okay. This is really, I think, how can we ensure that the retail stores are good quality stores? I think this is really not, it's outside the scope of the redevelopment plan, but I think, and listen, sometimes I'm willing to put my name on it. I think in conversations with Mr. Plasek that we will have good quality stores that will be able to, that folks will be good to go to. That's restaurants, that's retail. I don't think you'll see, as my classmate Norma said, a bunch of nail salons and smoke shops and things like that. I think you'll have almost a mall experience. So, David, please make sure that I'm okay with that. Don't make me go back on that one, because I will hear it. I can't answer that question, but when I say, to me, mall experience, I think is something that you don't have an issue with going into a store, and that store will have things that you want and need. Yeah, and I think, it's, yeah, that's why. Not fast food stores.
I'm going to take words out of your mouth. Mall experience.
Okay.
I know what you're saying.
I'm saying that you're going to deliver quality. That's what I'm saying. All right. Hold on, Carmel. I want to get through a couple of questions. I think this is a question, again, that's very important. Is this project equitable in terms of development intensity in the 4th ward compared to other wards? So, hold on, Renee. Let me answer the question. Let me ask. I'm going to take the mic away from you. I get his way. And this is where we get in, I don't want to say semantics, but the building height and density proposed in Lackawanna Plaza redevelopment plan is similar to other redevelopment projects along the Bloomfield Avenue corridor in the 3rd and 4th wards of the township. This is consistent with the township's adopted master plan, where more intense buildings are located in strategic nodes along Bloomfield Avenue corridor. Really good way of saying legally this fits, right? But I think aesthetically is the question. And then it comes down to you all getting in front of other counselors and planning board, explaining how you feel. I think that's the best way I can answer that. So yes, this project does fit legally under what our master plan says. and so therefore no rules are being broken. I think to Dr. Baskerville's question about number of units being over what allowed, that's where, you know, the question of like density and things like that come into place. But the bottom line answer to that question is yes, it does fit under our master plan into what goes there. The next question, and Janice, you better be ready for this. How is the development proposed in the redevelopment plan, which calls for 6-story, 87-foot tall buildings, consistent with the master plan's recommended 4-story, 47 height maximum on Bloomfield Avenue? David, I think you did a very good job last week explaining how development has changed since, what was it, early 1900s to today. So I'm going to answer these questions, and then, because there's like, oh, Janice, you killed me here.
I was going to say,
It's
do you
like-
want me to summarize that?
Can you? Because they're like, well,
it's
hey,
2 pages.
remember, all of this is going to be on the website, but I'm looking at this, and if I start to read this, and you're going to be like, what did he say?
Yeah.
So Janice, as you can, please do, and then if there's some bullet points that I feel like are important, I will do that.
I don't really want to go over the bullet points right now
Right.
because this is really the task of the planning board. But from a 30,000 square foot view, the master plan was carefully crafted to identify, as we've called, strategic nodes of development, particularly along the Bloomfield Avenue corridor. It was recognized that Bloomfield Avenue, that's our central business district. It's incredibly important. It's integral to the identity of Montclair Township. It's the historic district. And the master plan was really crafted to, again, this started in 2010, to ensure the long-term vitality of our central business district through strategic redevelopment. And we identified nodes in 4 different areas along our very long corridor. And one of those nodes is Lackawanna Plaza. And the redevelopment plan talks about how strategic redevelopment in these nodes, utilizing increased densities in exchange for improvements to the public realm and in certain items such as additional open space that you couldn't normally get, should be part of those redevelopment plans. So I don't want to go into all the details of the items that were pulled out from the redevelopment plan that I put into this argument, not to this argument, to this answer, but that's the gist of it. And really that's the focus of what the planning board is going to be responding to as they start working on this over the next couple of weeks.
And I think argument was the right word, because this is where you get into, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, but this is one of those areas where Martin Schwartz has like brought up and Claude saying that, hey, this building's too tall. This is what it looked like. And until you see the structure, I think the Seymour Street location is probably the best place where you can go and kind of see how the height will be pushed back off of the street. And it may be the closest thing to give you a true understanding of what this may look like on a small scale. But if you really want to get an idea of like when we talk about, you know, it being 6 stories and it's only supposed to be 4, but the height's 87 feet as opposed to 47, that'll give you a good indication of how and why it will be able to be done the way that it's currently set up. Is that a good indication? Is that somewhat accurate, David? So this will be better than Seymour Street. Okay, so then go see Seymour Street and think that'll be much better. Hold
7.
on. Carmel?
David, just a couple of points. You had said that this plan conforms to the master plan, and I think that's the role of the planning board for those
Correct.
45 days, to argue or to judge or to point out where it may not conform to the master plan. That's a comment. Another comment is, I just started looking at this too, and I thought that those triangles or whatever, I didn't realize those were potential rooftop open space. So for example, the people in the, I guess it's Matthew Carter housing, and the people in the little townhouses there will be looking at a block of wall all the way down from Glenridge Avenue to Bloomfield Avenue.
So I think, Carmel, that's why it's very important that we get the scale model.
Yeah.
So this is great if you have seen that, or kind of like if you're an architect.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But
yeah,
to
it's
your
very
point,
hard,
In
yeah.
order for the public to see that, they need to see the scaled model.
Right,
And
right.
so your question, basically what you're saying is, the apartments back here, what is the size? What will they be looking at?
They'll be looking at a
Right.
wall all the way from top to bottom there, right? And it's one big block of continuous building, right? That's
Well,
what I can
according-
tell.
Some of these setbacks.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
see, this is where you get into
Right,
like
the setbacks.
where to be set back.
Mhm.
And so it's not like you're gonna be, if you're that garbage can there and it's just gonna be a wall all
Yeah.
the way up. So there'll be some setbacks. So I think the actually entranceway off of Bloomfield Avenue is here. And again, I'm just gonna keep emphasizing this though. We do need to see the 3D model so that people can really get an
Right.
understanding of this.
Right.
Yes. Good job, Robert. Thank you.
On Bloomfield Avenue, but the housing that's looking at this, I don't know. What are they
Right.
looking at? Yeah. And as you said, David, you're concerned about what the people around the buildings who reside here are seeing and feeling with the traffic and the whole vibe of the place. So I do have a question, though. Was a lower scale development considered when this redevelopment plan was done?
I can't answer that. I think that would probably be a discussion for the EDC and Mr. Plasek. I think what he provided here was the best plan that he thought for what he wants to do. And listen.
He wants to make money. This is,
well,
he's
I
going to
mean,
put a plan
you
that,
can't-
you know.
listen, I'm not in a position to prevent anyone from making money, but I am in a position to represent the people.
Yeah, you protect
And
us.
so this is why we're doing this, to have these
And I
conversations.
appreciate it very much.
Thank
Absolutely.
you very much.
Yeah.
Jose in the back.
I'm sorry that I missed most of the meeting. I was attending another meeting in another committee tonight. I live in the neighborhood, just 1 block away from Lackawanna Plaza. I have been living in Montclair for 22 years. I know my neighborhood. I know all my neighbors. I know the needs of my neighborhood. And this is important for me because currently, when we are trying to get out of our homes in Grove Street, we need to put the car out of the driveway before 7 a.m. So after that, we are not able to get out because of the traffic. So the planning board has been approving massive project, increasing the traffic in the neighborhood without the consideration that we live there and we suffer the consequence. And we live in a neighborhood where we have most of the people seniors. We are living in between two senior residents in Grove Street. The first Montclair house and then the residents in Glenridge Avenue. And I see my neighbors living in both residences coming down the sidewalk because there's no way they can walk through, and then they are using the street and putting their life in risk. So whatever you approve, thinking about us, our needs, and the things that we need to improve in the community. I love the fact that we will be having a supermarket in Lackawanna Plaza, but also think about how to create a balance to make our neighborhood more efficient and more livable. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose. Appreciate that. Next question, we already discussed. What is the timeline to get the project built? Will there be jobs for Montclair residents? This is not a requirement in the redevelopment plan, but the developer has stated that jobs for Montclair residents will be provided. It is recommended that this be addressed in the redevelopment agreement. What does that mean? That the council, in terms of negotiating, is give and take. And so I think this is a very good thing that we should consider strongly, because I think it's best that Montclair should also benefit most from this project that's being going forward. That's just me saying something to you. And Jose left? Oh, that's came and gone. Okay. I don't know how you got this next answer, Janice, but how many residents can walk to Lackawanna Plaza? So walking distance is generally considered to be a half mile. There are approximately 17,000 Montclair residents within walking distance to Lackawanna Plaza. So that would include Dr. Baskerville. You can walk from your house to Lackawanna Plaza. So the circumference is pretty wild. It's pretty wild. So good to know. What was that? State, that was a comment or a question? Oh, you listen. That's the police will have to ticket all those shopping carts. But I think there'll be barriers to prevent shopping. Yeah, that's never mind. Someone had to bring that up. Okay. So you can have fun in these conversations, see? All right. Next question. How will construction be phased? When will the supermarket be built? Again, we go back to Janice's favorite word, site plan review. That will be determining things once we get that. But the one thing we can say that once the shovel's in the ground, it's expected to take about 2 years. Another question. Oh, here's a question. This is a good one for David, but I know the answer. What is the supermarket? We cannot tell you. All right. But I asked the question, but we cannot tell you. When Mr. Plasek is allowed to reveal that answer. All right. And we're not going to, there's a lot of different rumors out there, so we're not going to cause that. I think there's an NDA involved, correct, David, in terms of that. So until that can be done, we're not going to answer that question. Have we considered the project's impact to the electrical grid? You all should know the answer to this now. I've said it many times. Who can answer this question? If you've been paying attention, you would know the answer. What's the answer? See, you guys are great students. Site plan review. That's what we have that answer. But I do think that was actually a question that was not asked at the last meeting. It was forwarded to me, and we put that on there. So any questions that were sent, we added them.
Dave, we got a question over here from Ann.
Okay. No, get the mic.
It's probably a site plan, but I just want to bring it up. What about the flooding?
Gosh.
Yeah. Anyway, I just raised it as an issue.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
sure
no.
it'll be addressed.
All of those things, all of those types of things have been are being considered and talked about. What is the impact? We have a couple culverts there in that area. We do know the flooding that we had in the last storm. I guess that was last year. So I think things like that, mitigation, the things, how we're going to, those are good questions that I think Mr. Plasek will answer, as well as the township. We have to look into how do we improve that infrastructure. One of the things that I think what we went through a couple of weeks ago is we realized, I don't know how many people in here realize, what did we think Nutley mattered to us? And then one thing in Nutley, and we're all of a sudden begging other communities to help us have water. So I think, that is part of the discussion. We have to look at infrastructure, I think statewide. But to answer your question, yes, that will be considered strongly. Next question. Okay, Janice, you're going to come up again, but I know the answer is. So what studies have been done on underground culverts? The redevelopment plan includes a requirement that the existing condition of all water, sewage, and drainage utilities be assessed as part of the site plan review and shall include a video inspection of all pipes and culverts. Pipes and culverts that are at risk of collapsing or failing shall be replaced with reinforced concrete. So I'm going to make Janice answer this, but I think the bottom line is before anything goes up, that has to be addressed to make sure that that area is safe. And we're not concerned about being in a situation like we were a couple weeks ago. Do you want to add anything, Janice?
Yeah, I've had quite a few conversations with the township engineer and the director of utilities about infrastructure, because it's underground. We really don't know its current condition because it's underground. And they're very cognizant of that. And this is an opportunity not only to do a thorough inspection prior to development, but also an evaluation as to whether or not we can increase the capacity so that it's sized for future increases in stormwater volume. So it's all part of the conversation, but we really need to get an assessment of what's there, what its current conditions are. And we're requiring a video inspection. I think you read that, so.
Yes, I did.
David got a question.
Yes.
So talking about lifting up the ground, we might have a lot of friendly little buggers down there, a lot of rats and other kind of vermin. Does the town have a plan to keep them at bay when you break all that ground, just out of curiosity? We live down the block from there, so we wouldn't like
Yeah.
to have any more friends near there.
I would say, so if you go by Glenfield, there's a huge construction going on in new Wally Choice Community Center. And one of the things that the county had committed to was making sure they did all they can to remediate that possibility. And I don't know if we have any residents out. Amina, has it been a significant impact on you guys in terms of rodents? Right. Yeah, so in terms of the development, not so much the trash, because that's people, but I'm saying the development itself, you know, when you go in the ground, they're going to come out. And so this is a significant, and yeah, so David, do you have any kind of response of?
My daughter has wanted a mouse for a long time, so my fear is you're talking about her dream scenario right now.
Okay.
Look, no, there's mitigants that are put in place when you're doing construction for things like this, and let me assure you, I live here, right? So I'm a neighbor as well. So we take these things seriously, and it's all part of, you know, construction mitigation. There's a whole bunch of different things you mitigate in addition to, you know, the little critters. So that's just part of our process.
And I think it goes to the point of what Amina said. If, you know, as you neighbors and things see things, you got to bring it to the township, and then the township has to act on it and see what we can do or put some pressure to handle things if it gets to the point where it's like completely out of control. That looks like a setup question. Hold on. This young lady, she's been waiting for a while. I'm sorry about that.
Okay, I understand that it's not a federally funded project, so are you going to require the developer to have a percentage of the construction go to women and minority contractors? And if you do, what percentage? And also, is it going to be a prevailing wage project?
So the understand that the township does have a diversity improvement program where when we go out for contracts and things, that we do have a set aside of up to 20% for women and minority owned businesses. The developer in this project, we do not have a say in that. It's up to the developer. So David would have to answer that question in terms of who or what, but until we start building it, you know, that's not something that we really have any say over. The township doesn't.
Right over here.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm embarrassed to get back to my question that was so sophisticated. The rats. I'm on South Fullerton, and I want to bring it to your attention because I know somebody on Gates who had one on the stove and stabbed it. It's really out of control. I've lived here for a very long time. I have never had conversations with people surrounding rats and mice, and so the township has to address this. And I didn't realize it might have been coming from that new project, but it is really it's
what
rampant.
new project?
Yeah, Glenfield.
Oh, so you think that Glenfield has led
Well, no,
to...
I don't know. I don't know.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
I thought that's what was said.
Yeah,
but
that was, so Amina lives near Glenfield and was asking basically a question of how that has impacted where she lives. and understanding that when this goes up, if you look at the locations around it, as to the point that Ms. Lofton made others, you've got the Muse apartments on the side, you have the residents across on Glenridge Avenue. So I think also what Mr. Plasek said, it's committed, the mitigation that they have, if it gets out of control, there has to be more mitigation put down, more traps put down, more. And one of the things I think when you talk about, we probably have to come up with a better idea of how we're going to get rid of garbage, because it's going to be a significant amount. And so there are things that you can look into that have done, where we've done some potentially failures in the past. How can we learn to make sure we don't do the same thing again? And with this construction project, we have to make sure that we are proactive, particularly when it comes to something like that, which is, again, is a good part of why I had this conversation, concern about rodent impact.
Yeah, so it was just pointed out to me, I should say, South Fullerton and Hawthorne, and the two residents I know on Gates are right off of Hawthorne, and this is absolutely something that's new. So it is a direct, correlation to whatever else is going on.
Okay.
So I think Montclair, my wrap up is that Montclair, aside from this development, needs to be addressing this because it is an issue for your residents.
Yeah. And one of the things a lot of people don't realize is Montclair is basically built, we're on top of rivers. So, where do rodents live? That is like and Dr. Basker will tell you, we have the Nishawayne well, you have no idea how much water is running under this township, not to say that the Glenfield, what's going on in Glenfield is not impacting that, but that's just something a lot of times, that I think as we look into this particular project being built, that there's an emphasis on what could be happening with the rodents on that.
Good evening. When you finally get to the point of coming up with your development agreement for this project, and if the township is going to be involved in a pilot, in that agreement, you can spell out specifically what the town would expect from a job employment standpoint beyond the current township policy and how that will be enforced throughout the project. So the minute you entertain a pilot, there's a lot more leverage that the town can implement in that pilot, and you should take full advantage of that.
So, Mr. Scott, yes, aware, but we want to get to that point. As where we are right now, we're not there, and trust me, that's the beauty of having individuals like yourself to tell us what we know, but make sure we do what we know. And make that, those are conversations that we had at the proper time. Any other questions? Wait a minute, you've been here all this time. You just have a question? Hold on 1 second. He's bringing you your mic.
Okay, so I know that Tony's Brook is one of the main brooks that flows through Montclair, and I think it flows very close to Lackawanna Plaza. And I know during one of the hurricanes last year, the brook actually flooded part of Montclair High School.
Right.
And so let's hope that it does not become a major issue for Lackawanna Plaza.
Yeah, I think that was the question was answered earlier, to make sure that there is, that we go in and see what the culverts look like and make sure that they're up to speed and able to handle things. Quick story about Tony Brook. I actually walked Tony Brook from Edgemont to my aunt's house on Brook Lawn, which is at the end of Barnes Road. So you can literally walk. You go underground, up the ground, but you can get on that brook all the way from Edgemont to the 4th Ward, the last street in the 4th Ward, Brook Lawn. So, so that's a great thing. I don't even know why I told y'all that, but anyway. No, because you mentioned Tony's Brook, that's why. So I love Tony's Brook. Yeah.
Did you go through the culverts?
Yeah, my cousin and I, we used to do some things, but back then, we used to also play outside a lot. So, Another good question that I think will right now is to be addressed. Okay, so we're playing our quiz game, right? Will there be any surface parking? I think you all know the answer to that. See, somebody's been paying attention. Yeah, that'll be done for a site plan review. I think it's, again, conversations that need to have when you talk about negotiations. But as of now, that is not something we can answer. And following question has already been asked, but I think with Neil again, and that's, will all the parking be in a garage? Mr. Plasek, you want to say site plan review, or you want me to say it? I love how David puts it all on. Thank you. And what I'm going to close out with, does anybody else have any comments? Carmel. Wait for the mic.
You know, the post office is right opposite the building there, B, is it? And I'm wondering if, I know it's probably site plan, if there's any thought being given to having a crossway or maybe one of those blinking things, because people will be, and they do it now, and they'll be running across the road to, yeah, we want to make sure everybody's safe. No one's going to walk to the corner. They're going to cut across.
Right. So the cool thing about this is that Carmel being here and Robin being here, they have an understanding of a lot of questions that you guys have asked. And so I think the planning board will be well versed on some of the good questions, some of the tough questions, and also they want to hear that you all come to their meeting and give them your point of view when you're allowed. So that's why I'm very happy that we've been able to have these meetings to start the conversation, because as I've said before, when this was originally supposed to be brought to the council and passed, I did not vote for that, because to me, you all needed to see as much as you could see. And I'm still committed and hope that we can get that 3D model, because that's the only way you will really have an understanding of the size and scope of this project. This is all great, but if you have to understand it. But I think it's been a really good conversation that we've had. I thank you all for last week's questions. I thank you all for coming tonight with some suggestions and thoughts. And I'm committed to having as many of these as I can, because as I said before, this is a one-shot deal. And so if we don't get it right the first time, there's no getting it right again. We have to do this right, and I'm committed to it being done right for the community, specifically and most importantly, the community that's surrounding the area, because those are the individuals who are going to be impacted most. And that area is very large. You know, like I said, I drive to work down Elm Street to Grove Street, and there are times where I'm stopped at Elmwood Avenue and Hawthorne. And so, you know, as Jose brought up earlier, him coming down Grove Street in cars, you know, there are a lot of things that the whole township, and I say township staff, has to really take in consideration to make sure, because I think we're committed. When I say I know we're committed to getting this done, I think what the question will be for us is make sure how much we can get done that benefits both parties. And in negotiations, no one should walk away happy. And so I'm saying that because you guys aren't going to be happy. Some will be, some will not. But I think the council has, you know, got some orders, and we know some of the things that are very important to you all. And because of you coming out and voicing those concerns, we're able to move forward. And so with that, Janice, I'm going to say site plan review, frequently answered questions will be up on the website, so you all can review those. And then as we move forward, you know, I'm in communication with Mr. Plasek quite a bit. I think it's important that I emphasize that model, because that is something that really gives the scope and size, and also some of the questions that you guys have asked tonight, it will give you those answers. So we're going to close out. Really appreciate everybody coming tonight. I hope you got a lot from this. What do y'all need to do, Renee? I acknowledge Robert. Oh, thank you so much. Yes, and I was going to do that Monday. Yeah. As she's done a lot, Dr. Baskerville, knows our community very well, and I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge that we lost Sandy Lang this morning. Yeah, Sandy was a Fourth Ward council person, longtime Montclair resident, beautiful soul, beautiful woman. And so, Doc, thank you very much for letting me know that to remind to say that to everyone. So, yeah, Robin, very well. So, yeah. So I hate to leave this on that sad note, but definitely worth acknowledging someone who's given her time, gave time as a council member, but also just as a resident of the township. And so that is a big loss. So Janice, once again, thank you for hanging out with me. We've
My
been
pleasure.
yeah, Janice and I have become really good friends. And again, as these questions come, you can send them to me. I encourage you to send them to me. Bring your concerns, and I'll look forward to seeing and talking to you again. Thank you.